You know, usually when we talk about asking a question, there's this, I don't know, this underlying expectation of simple physical mechanics.
Yeah, like a direct transaction.
Exactly. It's like standing in front of a vending machine.
Yeah.
You know, you have a craving, you put your coin in, you punch the alphanumeric code for the exact snack you want,
Right.
say D4 for the pretzels, and the machine just whirs, the coil turns, and your snack drops down. And if you want a better result or like a different snack entirely, you just optimize the button you press.
Yeah, that's the classic transactional model, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the input strictly dictates the output, and your only job as the human in that scenario is to make sure you didn't accidentally press, D5 and end up with stale mints instead of pretzels.
Oh, man, the worst.
Right. But the machine itself, it doesn't care about your diet or your hunger or why you even want the pretzels. It just executes.
It just executes. But then, you step into the modern world of artificial intelligence and suddenly, like, everyone on the planet is obsessing over how to press those buttons better. Oh, absolutely.
And we've given it this very fancy name, right? Prompt engineering.
Yes.
I mean, we are spending endless hours. We're taking expensive courses and reading these massive guides on how to perfectly format our requests.
Yeah, the mega prompts.
Right. We are learning to give the machine the right context, the right persona, the right constraints. Like, act as a senior marketing executive with 20 years of experience in B2B SaaS.
Yeah, exactly.
But in all this hyperfixation on the prompt, it feels like we're completely ignoring a massive glaring vulnerability.
Jizz.
Who is actually checking the quality of the mind asking the question in the first place?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it is the absolute definition of a blind spot. And it's a dangerous one, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we are meticulously optimizing the machine's execution, but we are completely ignoring the architecture of the human thought process that initiates the entire interaction.
Right.
It's like we are building faster cars without teaching the drivers how to read a map, let alone asking if they're, sober enough to drive. That is a terrifying image. But that is exactly why you're here with us for this deep dive. Because today, for you listening, we are exploring a concept that just completely flips this entire paradigm on its head. Because as someone who loves to learn, you know that true competitive advantage isn't just about finding faster answers, right?
No, not at all.
It's about gaining profound knowledge without drowning in that information overload. So today, we are diving into the extensive writings and frameworks of Stephen A. Davis.
Yes.
Specifically, his concept of thought engineering. But, and this is crucial, we aren't just going to, stay in the philosophical clouds today.
Right, we're getting into the weeds.
Exactly. Our mission today is to meticulously unpack the practical application of this concept. We are going to look at a highly methodical, step-by-step, 30-day strategy designed to radically upgrade how you think in the age of AI.
And it is such a necessary journey, I think, because it addresses this core tension we're all feeling right now,
Right.
whether we, consciously realize it or not.
What is that tension exactly?
Well, AI accelerates our access to answers, right? It provides unprecedented speed.
Unbelievable speed.
Yeah. But true maturity,
Yeah.
true intellectual responsibility,
Yeah.
it actually requires us to do the exact opposite.
To slow down.
Yes, it requires us to slow down our judgments.
Yeah.
I mean, Davis's work isn't about telling us what to think. It's a rigorous, practical methodology of how to think when the digital world around us is relentlessly demanding these instant reactions.
Okay, so let's unpack this foundational shift right away because I feel like we need to define the territory here.
Let's do it.
Prompt engineering versus thought engineering. Because on the surface, if I'm just scrolling through a business blog on LinkedIn or something, they sound like two sides of the same coin.
They do, yeah.
I mean, they both have engineering in the title, they both relate to AI, but the source material makes it incredibly clear they are fundamentally different disciplines.
Completely different.
Right, because prompt engineering is about clarity, context, goals. It's about getting the machine to give you what you want. So I have to ask you, isn't thought engineering just a slightly more, I don't know, elevated version of that?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it just hyper-editing your prompt before you hit send?
Not at all. And honestly, conflating the two is exactly the trap that Davis is warning about.
Really?
Yeah, if you view thought engineering as just like better prompt writing, you've missed the entire premise. Let's look at the systemic difference here.
Okay.
Prompt engineering asks, how do I get a better answer from the machine?
Right.
Thought engineering asks a much more uncomfortable question. It asks, how do I think in the first place?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, prompt engineering is a technical competence. Its entire goal is efficiency, reducing friction, accelerating a process.
Making it smooth.
Exactly. Thought engineering, on the other hand, is about personal maturity. It is designed to intentionally introduce friction.
Introduce.
Yes, it slows down your evaluation process. Gavis uses this brilliant German term in the texts, cognitive Bequemlichkeit.
Okay. Cognitive Bequemlichkeit, which translates to
It translates roughly to cognitive comfort or cognitive laziness.
cognitive comfort. That is a heavy phrase. It perfectly describes that feeling of just, letting the AI do the heavy lifting because you're tired at 4 p.m. on a Friday.
Precisely. I mean, the human brain is literally an energy-saving organ.
Right.
Evolutionarily, we are wired to conserve calories, which means we rely on heuristics, biases, and mental shortcuts whenever possible.
That's biological.
It's totally biological, and AI is the ultimate enabler of this biological laziness. It offers us this frictionless slide into cognitive comfort.
Right.
So thought engineering is the conscious mechanism to protect your intellectual integrity against that very comfort. It's the friction you apply to your own brain so you don't just slide into the machine's conclusions.
Okay, so here's an analogy to see if I'm tracking the mechanics of this.
Yep.
Prompt engineering is like giving better, more precise instructions to a highly efficient GPS system in your car.
Okay.
You tell it to, avoid tolls, take the scenic route, and get you to the exact address in exactly 30 minutes. You optimize the route.
Right.
But thought engineering is pulling the car over to the side of the road, putting it in park, and asking, wait, why are we even driving to this destination? Do I even want to be in this city?
That's close, but we actually need to push that analogy further.
Okay, push.
Because the danger with the GPS analogy is that in a car, you usually have a fixed objective destination.
Right.
In business and just in life, AI often tricks us into changing our destination entirely without us even noticing.
Wait, really? How?
Well, if you just rely on prompt engineering, you might tell the AI, give me a strategy to cut costs by 15%.
Okay. Pretty standard prompt.
Right. And the AI acts like a perfect GPS. It gives you a flawless route to cut those costs. It tells you to, fire the senior staff and automate customer service, and you arrive at the destination efficiently. But thought engineering is asking, what must I believe to be true to assume cost-cutting is the right strategy right now?
Oh, I see.
Like, what if the real problem isn't costs at all, but a stale product line?
Right.
If you don't ask that, your GPS just drove you efficiently off a cliff.
Man. But okay, I have to push back on this deeply.
Please do.
Because this sounds really great in a, philosophy seminar. But I am looking at the reality of the modern business landscape here.
Right.
Speed is the entire point. If I am an executive and my competitor is using AI to generate 10 distinct go-to-market strategies in an hour, and they are executing on them, and I'm sitting in my office pulling the car over to thought engineer my foundational premises, I'm going to get left behind.
I feel like you'll lose.
I'm going to get crushed by the sheer volume and velocity of my competitor's output. Isn't this deliberate slowing down just a romanticized way of making ourselves obsolete?
It is a very, very common fear. And honestly, it is the exact reason why people default to that vending machine mode you mentioned.
Yeah.
But Davis addresses this directly. And you have to look at the macroeconomic shift occurring right now.
Okay.
We are entering a phase where information generation is becoming a base commodity.
A commodity.
Think about it. Because everyone has access to the exact same AI models, everyone can generate those 10 strategies an hour.
Right. The models are ubiquitous.
Exactly. Generating the information is no longer a competitive advantage. It is the new baseline. So if speed and volume are commoditized, what is the new premium skill?
Well, I assume you're going to say judgment.
Yes. Judgment is the new core competence. If you prioritize speed without judgment, you aren't actually gaining an edge over your competitor. You are just arriving at faster bad decisions.
Faster bad decisions. Wow.
Let's go back to your competitor generating 10 strategies an hour. If their foundational assumption about the market is flawed, AI doesn't correct the assumption.
It just runs with it.
It just builds 10 highly persuasive, perfectly formatted strategies based on that flaw. I mean, AI doesn't make us incompetent. Rather, as Davis points out, it acts as a massive mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, it reflects and amplifies our unexamined assumptions. It shows us where our thinking is already lazy.
So the speed is actually a trap if the foundation is weak.
Exactly.
It just scales your blind spots. It's like having a printing press that can print 1,000,000 books an hour, but the manuscript has a fatal typo on every single page.
That's a great way to put it.
You haven't succeeded. You've just created 1,000,000 errors faster than anyone else in history.
Right. If you are operating with unexamined biases, AI will give you a highly polished articulation of your own flawed thinking. And because it sounds so authoritative, you're going to believe it.
Of course you will.
This is why avoiding cognitive laziness isn't just a nice philosophical exercise for intellectuals. It's a brutal survival skill in the corporate world. And this is exactly why Davis doesn't just offer this as a theory. He provides a specific, structured methodology to actually engineer our thinking.
Which brings us to the engine of this methodology.
Yes.
Because the texts detail a few core frameworks, and I really want to start with one called ACR attendancy.
Ah, ACR.
Yeah. Now, this stands for Awaken, Clarify, and Realign.
Right.
Now, I'll be honest, on paper, that sounds like standard corporate jargon.
It does sound a bit like a buzzword.
Yeah, exactly. So let's break down the actual mechanics of what these 3 steps mean in practice.
Okay, we have to look at the cognitive friction involved in each step, because ACR is essentially the foundational rhythm of thought engineering.
The rhythm.
Yeah. So the first step, Awaken, is perhaps the hardest,
Why?
because it is simply about noticing what you are thinking in real time.
Yeah.
It is the moment of metacognition.
Thinking about thinking.
Right. Stepping outside of your thought stream and observing it without immediate judgment. It's realizing, like, oh, I am feeling anxious about this quarter's numbers,
Yeah.
and that anxiety is actually driving my desire to push this aggressive marketing campaign.
It's catching the thought before it becomes an action.
Precisely. And then the second step, clarify, is where you structure those assumptions.
Okay.
You look at that thought you just caught and you interrogate it. You ask, what must I believe to be true for this thought to exist? What evidence do I actually have? You essentially map out the architecture of your own logic.
Wow, okay. And the final one.
The final step, realign, is where you consciously adjust your stance based on that newfound clarity. You decide how you will proceed, not based on the initial reflex, but on verified judgment.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting to me, looking at how this applies to AI.
Mm-hmm.
The text points out that prompt engineering actually starts at the second step. Clarify.
Exactly.
Right. When you sit down to write a prompt, you are clarifying your request, you are structuring your constraints for the machine. But thought engineering must start at Awaken.
This is the critical distinction.
Yeah,
If you skip Awaken, which, let's be honest, almost everyone does,
I do it constantly.
right? If you skip it, you are walking into a trap. Let's walk through a case study to show the mechanics of this.
Let's hear it.
Imagine you're an executive and revenue is down. You feel panicked.
Very relatable.
Yeah. You go to your AI and you start at clarify. You write a prompt, draft a firm, urgent memo to the sales team, demanding a 20% increase in outreach this week, and outline consequences for missing quotas.
Okay, clear constraints.
You have clarified your prompt beautifully. The AI will write a terrifyingly effective memo.
Oh yeah, it will sound professional, urgent, and perfectly formatted.
Yes, but what did you skip? You skipped Awaken. You didn't notice that your underlying thought was driven purely by panic,
Right.
or that your unexamined assumption was that the sales team is just being lazy.
Oh, wow.
What if the real issue is that your product is suddenly obsolete because a competitor dropped a new feature yesterday?
Oh, man.
Because you skipped Awaken, you took your flawed assumption, you structured it in the clarify phase, and the AI just amplified it. You just destroyed your sales team's morale based on a hallucinated premise.
It is. Wow.
Your highly engineered prompt was just a megaphone for your unexamined panic.
That makes the danger incredibly tangible. I mean, it's like sharpening a knife to a microscopic edge without checking if you're holding it by the handle or the blade.
Yes.
You're making the tool infinitely more effective, but you are absolutely going to hurt yourself.
Perfectly said.
And this connects deeply to another major framework Davis uses, the Wortprinzip, or the word principle.
Yes, the word principle.
It's an acronym in German: Wertschätzung, Offenheit, Reliabilität, and Transparenz.
Correct.
Now, usually when we hear words like appreciation or transparency, we think of them in terms of external leadership.
Right, HR stuff.
Yeah, like how we treat our employees, how we talk to our partners. But Davis applies this inwardly to how we treat our own thoughts.
It is a profound internalization of leadership principles. You are essentially becoming the CEO of your own cognitive processes.
CEO of your own brain. I like that.
Let's unpack the mechanics of each, because it's not just about translating the words, it's about the cognitive exercise they demand.
Okay, let's start with Wertschätzung.
So Wertschätzung translates to appreciation or esteem.
Right.
In thought engineering, this doesn't mean giving yourself a pat on the back. It means taking your own thought discipline seriously.
What does that mean practically?
It's appreciating the value of your own mind enough not to just feed it algorithmic junk or let it run on autopilot. It is the self-respect required to say, my judgment matters too much to outsource this to a machine.
Okay, what about Offenheit, openness? Because again, in a corporate setting, openness usually means like having an open door policy. What does it mean internally?
Internally, openness is the rigorous and often painful practice of questioning your own perspective.
Painful, yeah.
It is the willingness to be wrong. When you have a strong reaction to a piece of data, openness is the mechanism that forces you to ask, what if the exact opposite of my initial conclusion is actually true?
Oh, that is hard.
It is actively fighting the confirmation bias that AI so easily caters to.
And reliability. Reliability. Practically speaking, how do I apply reliability to my own thought? Like, it's easy to check if a car engine is reliable, you just run it.
Right.
How do I verify a judgment internally? Do I just play devil's advocate with myself? Do I write down my opposite assumption?
Yes, exactly. You have to create cognitive distance. You verify your judgment by stress testing it against reality, not against your feelings.
Okay.
You ask yourself, if I were forced to defend this assumption in a court of law, what evidence would I present?
Wow, okay.
Is this a fact, or is it just a very convincing narrative I've told myself? You don't just trust the conclusion you jump to. You force yourself to show your own work.
Show your work, just like in math class.
Exactly.
And finally, transparency.
This is about making your hidden assumptions visible to yourself. We all have invisible scripts running in the background. We assume certain demographics behave a certain way. We assume a specific tone is required for leadership. Transparency is the deliberate act of bringing those invisible scripts into the light so they can actually be evaluated.
Yeah.
You have to lay your biases out on the table before you sit down at the keyboard.
So let's tie this back to you, the listener, and your daily life. Because if you think about how often you take a piece of AI-generated text, maybe it's a summary of a massive PDF, a strategic outline, or even a draft of a sensitive email.
Right.
You read it and you just accept it because it sounds plausible.
That sounds great.
The grammar is flawless, the tone is authoritative, but when you hit send or approve, without applying this work principle, without checking your own assumptions that led to the prompt, and without verifying the reliability of the judgment, you aren't just using a tool.
No, yeah.
You are effectively outsourcing your moral and intellectual responsibility to a statistical probability model.
That is the exact danger Davis warns against, and it happens 1,000 times a day in every office.
Yeah.
It is a subtle, creeping abdication of leadership. And the tricky part is that these frameworks, ACR, Ward, they sound great in theory, right?
Absolutely.
If we just talk about them on a deep dive like this, everyone nods along.
Everyone agrees.
But human nature, under stress and deadlines, it defaults to cognitive comfort. We want to take the shortcut. We want the vending machine.
Because we're tired.
Because we're tired.
Yeah.
So the ultimate question Davis tries to answer is, how do we actually wire these high-level philosophical concepts into the chaotic, notification-driven reality of our daily lives?
And that leads us directly to the core of Davis's practical application. This is really the heart of our deep dive today.
Yes.
The 30-day thought engineering challenge. This is where the theory hits the concrete.
Exactly. The source materials detail a specific program, referred to as the 30-stage impulse strategy, or 30-day impulse strategy.
Okay.
It is laid out as a daily cross-media publication plan. It's designed specifically for platforms like LinkedIn, Threads, X, and Instagram.
Okay, wow.
And it is built entirely around what Davis calls mini impulses.
Now, I have to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
When I first read this part of the source material, I was highly, highly skeptical.
I don't blame you.
Because we have just spent 20 minutes talking about deep philosophical metacognitive frameworks. We are talking about reclaiming the architecture of human thought.
Right.
And the delivery mechanism for this profound revolution is microblogging, a LinkedIn post.
Yep.
I mean, why 30 days? And why on earth would you use the exact platforms that are notorious for destroying our attention spans and promoting surface-level thinking? It just sounds like cheap engagement bait to me.
I completely understand the skepticism. It seems entirely counterintuitive.
Totally.
But when you look at the mechanics of behavioral change, it is a highly intentional, almost subversive strategy.
Subversive.
Yes, it speaks to how Davis truly understands modern human behavior. Because, look, thought engineering isn't about locking yourself in a cabin in the woods for a month and reading a massive textbook on epistemology.
Right.
If you try to do that, you will fail. Because the modern business world does not afford you that luxury of isolation.
The emails will pile up.
The moment you leave the cabin, the chaos will overwhelm you.
Yeah.
So thought engineering has to be a daily, consciously designed reflection process that survives in the chaos.
So you have to train in the environment where the fight is actually happening.
Exactly. By using short, daily impulses that end in a single specific reflection question. Davis is injecting a mini-pause directly into the environment where we are most prone to mindless reactivity.
Oh, wow.
He isn't asking you to leave the feed. He's ambushing you inside the feed.
It's a brilliant paradox when you frame it like that.
Right.
He is using the very platforms that usually accelerate our reactions, like that endless dopamine-driven scroll of social media to deliver a daily speed bump.
Yes.
It's like putting a stop sign on the Autobahn. He is forcing us to slow down our judgments in the exact place we are trained to judge the fastest.
Yes, and the psychological goal of these posts is radically different from typical social media content.
How?
Well, the goal isn't to demand a complex multi-paragraph comment from the reader. The goal, as the texts explicitly state, is to generate resonance.
Resonance.
And it's to plant a seed that irritates your cognitive comfort just enough to make you pause before you scroll to the next post. It's a micro-intervention.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of Davis's work, this specific 30-day strategy is intimately tied to his concept of security.
Wait, security, like cybersecurity.
Yes.
How does a daily LinkedIn post about metacognition connect to firewalls and hackers? That feels like a massive leap.
It sounds like a leap until you redefine what a vulnerability actually is.
Okay, redefine it for me.
What is fascinating here is Davis's definition of security in the age of AI. He argues that true cybersecurity begins in the mind, not with IT firewalls.
Okay.
A technical firewall protects the network data, but a cognitive firewall protects the human decision.
Oh, a cognitive firewall.
Look at the biggest corporate breaches in recent history. Most of them don't happen because a piece of encryption code was mathematically flawed.
No, it's usually phishing.
Exactly. They happen because a human being made an unexamined assumption. An employee assumed a phishing email was safe because it looked like it came from the CEO. A manager assumed a new software integration was thoroughly vetted.
Right.
The hacker didn't exploit the code. The hacker exploited the human cognitive comfort.
So these 30 days of mini impulses, they are essentially a training regimen to build that cognitive firewall.
Precisely.
You are training the brain to recognize when it is operating on unchecked assumptions.
You are patching the human vulnerability.
Man, that is powerful. Okay, let's get into the actual weeds of this training regimen. Let's walk you, the listener, through the specific phases of this 30-day journey.
Let's do it.
Because we have the full editorial plan in the sources, and rather than just reading it like a boring calendar, it's fascinating to see how the psychological pressure builds.
It really does build.
Let's group the first few days. Phase 1 covers days 1 through 4. And this entire block is fundamentally about observation in space.
Phase 1 is the absolute bedrock. It correlates directly to the Awaken step of the ACR model we discussed earlier.
Right, catching the thought.
Because you cannot fix what you cannot see.
Uh-huh.
So day 1 is dedicated to #Gedankenbeobachtung, which translates to thought observation.
Okay.
The prompt for the day is deceptively simple. It asks one question: which thought is guiding my decision right now?
Which thought is guiding my decision right now? It sounds incredibly simple, almost trite, honestly.
It does.
But when you actually try to answer it in the middle of a chaotic workday, it is incredibly difficult.
Very difficult.
You have to stop and catch the thought mid-flight. It's like trying to catch a bullet with your bare hands.
Exactly.
And once you catch it, you realize how bizarre the thought usually is.
Usually driven by anxiety or rush.
Yeah. And then the challenge immediately raises the stakes. We move to day 2, which focuses on #Animan, or assumptions. The question here shifts from observation to interrogation. It asks, which assumption is currently influencing my judgment?
I would argue that day 2 is the most critical psychological pivot in the entire month.
Really? Day 2?
Yes. We touched on this earlier, but we really need to dive deeper. Human decisions are rarely, if ever, based purely on objective, pristine facts.
Sad but true.
They are almost always built on a scaffolding of invisible assumptions.
Like what?
Well, we assume our supply chain will hold up because it did last year. We assume our team understands the strategic goal because, hey, we put it on a slide deck.
Right. Everyone read the deck.
We assume the AI's data pool is unbiased. If we don't actively make these assumptions visible, if we don't drag them into the light and clarify them, we end up blindly prompting AI with our own blind spots.
Oh, wow.
We literally engineer prompts that simply validate our flawed assumptions at light speed.
At light speed. That's the scary part.
Exactly.
Then day 3 tackles perspectives, asking, which perspective is missing in my thinking right now? And then day 4 introduces a concept that I think is the absolute hardest for modern professionals to swallow. Day 4 is #denkpausen, thought pauses.
Yes, the pause.
The question is a total gut punch. When did you last consciously make time to think?
Day 4 highlights a massive systemic vulnerability in the AI era.
Tell me about it.
In a world where immediate, highly articulate answers from AI are always available on your screen, silence and empty space actually become the ultimate tools for thought quality.
Silence as a tool.
Yes. Without space, you cannot reflect. And without reflection, you only have reaction. You become a stimulus response machine.
Okay, I have to step in and play devil's advocate here again because this is where I start to lose the thread of how this applies to high-level business.
Lay it on me.
Day 1, observing your thoughts. Day 4, taking a pause, finding silence. This sounds exactly like basic mindfulness or meditation.
It does.
And look, while I know that is great for personal well-being, lowering blood pressure, being present with your kids, how does simply observing a thought or taking a deep breath help me prepare for a high-stakes leadership meeting?
Right.
If I have 400 unread emails in my inbox and I need to make $1 million decision on a merger in 5 minutes, AI can summarize the merger documents in 3 seconds. Taking a micropause to observe my feelings isn't emotional intelligence. It's a bottleneck. It feels soft. It feels like an indulgence I literally cannot afford.
I absolutely see where you're going with that, and it's the exact pushback every high-performing executive gives when they first encounter this.
I bet.
But Davis anticipates this, and we have to redefine what reflection actually does mechanically.
Okay.
He explicitly states in the text, reflection is not a weakness, it is cognitive strength. Let's look at the mechanics of your high-stakes merger meeting.
All right, let's look at it.
If you are operating on autopilot, fueled by adrenaline and those 400 unread emails, your reaction to the AI summary of that merger will be completely dictated by your underlying conditioning, your fear of missing out, your exhaustion, your unexamined desire to just get the deal done so you can finally sleep.
Guilt as charged.
By observing the thought, by inserting that micropause, you aren't doing a yoga retreat. You are decoupling your automatic biological reaction from your strategic action.
Okay, wait. Let's break that down. Decoupling the reaction from the action.
Yes. Between the stimulus, which is the AI summary, and your response, which is signing the deal, there's a gap.
A gap.
Autopilot closes that gap to absolute zero.
You just react.
You just react. Thought engineering forces that gap open. You break the circuit. You reclaim your leadership from the biological autopilot.
Oh, I see.
You create a fraction of a second where you can actually choose a response rather than just executing a panicked reaction. That isn't soft. That is the very definition of strategic command. If you can't control the gap between stimulus and response, you aren't leading. You are just reacting faster.
That makes total sense. It's not about finding inner peace. It's about finding a tactical vantage point.
Exactly.
So once we have created this space, once we have observed our assumptions in phase 1, we don't just stay in the pause.
No.
A pause isn't a decision. We actually have to do something with the terrifyingly complex information we are facing.
Right. We have to act.
And that transitions us out of the internal landscape and into the middle of the challenge phase 2, which spans roughly days 5 through 13.
Yep.
If phase 1 was observation, phase 2 is all about clarity, complexity, and judgment.
Exactly. Phase 1 was preparing the internal instrument. Phase 2 is about how we take that instrument and process the external onslaught of information.
An onslaught which AI has dramatically intensified.
Massively. Let's look at day 5. #Otalscraft, or judgment. The core, uncompromising premise of this day is that information provides options, but judgment decides.
I love that. Information provides options, judgment decides. This directly attacks the modern illusion that more data automatically equals better decisions.
We all fall for it.
We do. We often think, especially now, if I just prompt the AI to give me a wider analysis, if I ask it to pull in 50 more data points from global markets, the right choice will magically become obvious.
And it barely does.
But day 5 says no. The AI can analyze, it can structure, it can categorize, it can even rank options based on parameters you set. But the moment of human responsibility begins at the exact point of decision.
Yes.
Because the AI doesn't bear the consequences of the bankruptcy, you do.
Precisely. And this ties perfectly into day 9, which focuses on #complexity.
Complexity, okay.
Davis makes a crucial distinction here that we often get wrong. Complex thinking does not mean complicated thinking.
Say more about that.
When faced with a massive 100-page AI-generated report full of intricate market data, our human tendency is to get tangled in the complication. We try to read every single metric.
We get lost in the weeds.
Exactly. The prompt for day 9 cuts through all of that noise. It asks one piercing question: what is truly decisive here?
What is truly decisive? I love that phrase. It reminds me of being in the cockpit of a commercial airliner.
How so?
Think about a pilot flying through a massive storm. AI and modern avionics give the pilot thousands of data points instantly. Dials, gauges, wind shear alerts, micro-weather reports, fuel burn rates.
It's a wall of data.
It is an overwhelming amount of information. Prompt engineering is just the pilot asking the radar system for a slightly clearer, higher resolution picture of the clouds ahead.
Right.
It's useful, sure, but thought engineering is you, the human pilot, looking at all that perfect high-resolution data and deciding whether you should fly into the storm at all.
Or if you should divert.
Exactly. Asking the radar for more data doesn't land the plane safely. What is truly decisive? The safety of the passengers.
That analogy perfectly captures the essence of day 12, which is about #Klarheit, clarity.
Clarity.
The source material states a profound truth. Clarity rarely comes from more information. It comes from better questions.
Fair question.
If you are lost in the storm, asking the radar for more data points on the exact diameter of the raindrops doesn't give you clarity. It gives you a distraction.
Wow. Yeah.
Asking the fundamental question, is this the right route, is what provides clarity. AI will gladly give you the raindrop data all day long if you prompt it to. It won't ask you if you're flying to the right city.
And if we connect this to another major framework mentioned in the sources, the consequence and compass, or the consequences compass.
The compass, yes.
How does evaluating complexity and seeking clarity in phase 2 actually tie into this compass? Because a compass implies, direction.
The consequences compass is about radically thinking responsibility through to the absolute end.
The end.
In the context of AI, evaluating complexity means looking at a decision and asking, what happens if we adopt this AI's output without inner verification?
Okay, let's apply this to a real business scenario.
Sure. Let's say you ask an AI to restructure your supply chain to maximize profit.
Very common prompt.
The AI, acting as a perfect answer machine, suggests a strategy that increases efficiency by 15% by cutting ties with 3 local long-term suppliers and moving to a cheaper overseas conglomerate.
Okay. On paper, the data says it's a huge win.
Yes. But the AI won't catch the nuances of human relationships or long-term brand reputation.
He just sees numbers.
The consequences compass forces you to step out of the data and ask, what are the second and third order effects of this decision?
So the first order effect is we save 15%.
Right, but the second order effect might be that the local community boycotts your brand.
Ouch.
The third order effect might be that when a global shipping crisis hits, you have no local relationships to fall back on, and your entire production line halts.
And you lose everything.
The compass forces you to ask, what do I lose in my own strategic judgment if I just accept this highly efficient output?
It forces you to take ownership of the ripple effects, not just the immediate, isolated result on a spreadsheet. It's heavy, but it's absolutely necessary. So as we move through this rigorous, exhausting process of internal observation in phase 1 and external judgment in phase 2, we finally arrive at the culmination of the 30-day cycle.
Phase 3.
Phase 3, encompassing the final days of the month, and it shifts the focus entirely. It moves from internal clarity to external impact and leadership. Let's look at the climax of the strategy, days 24 through 30.
This final phase is about responsibility and what Davis calls digital sovereignty.
Digital sovereignty.
It's where thought engineering transforms from a personal cognitive habit into a comprehensive leadership philosophy.
Okay.
Day 24 is dedicated to #Denkverantwortung. Thought responsibility.
Thought responsibility.
The logic here is uncompromising and very linear. Your thoughts influence your decisions. Your decisions influence reality.
Right.
Therefore, you are ultimately responsible for the quality of your initial thoughts. You cannot blame the AI for the reality you chose to create.
And day 30 wraps up the entire month-long journey with #thought engineering. It summarizes the core mission we started with. We are not engaging with AI to seek faster answers. We are engaging in this process to develop our own thinking.
And this brings us to what I believe is one of the most vital redefining concepts in Davis's work, digital sovereignty.
Okay, let's define this, because usually when we hear the phrase digital sovereignty in the news or in tech circles, we think about infrastructure.
Servers and data centers.
Yeah, we think about data privacy laws, whether servers are located in Europe versus the US, or maybe knowing how to code in Python.
Right.
But Davis redefines it entirely. He elevates it. He argues that digital sovereignty isn't about knowing a lot of tech tools or where your data is stored. It is a state of consciousness.
Yeah.
A state of consciousness. That is a massive reframing of a very technical term. It means you aren't actually sovereign just because you pay for the most advanced language model or because you know how to write a 500-word prompt.
Exactly. Technical proficiency is not sovereignty.
Wow.
You are sovereign if and only if you can regulate your own speed in a system designed to make you go fast.
That's good.
You are sovereign if you retain ultimate responsibility for the final output, regardless of who or what generated it. You are sovereign if you never, ever delegate your Haltung.
What's that?
It's a great German word meaning your stance, your values, your inner moral posture. You never delegate your Haltung to an algorithm.
Let's give a concrete example of losing that sovereignty.
Sure.
If I ask an AI to write a difficult performance review or a termination email to an underperforming employee,
Oh boy.
and I just copy-paste and send what it writes without ensuring it reflects my true leadership values, my empathy, my specific context, I have surrendered my digital sovereignty.
Entirely.
I have let a statistical model dictate my moral stance to another human being.
That is the perfect example. You became the tool, and the AI became the leader.
Wow.
This dynamic reminds me of a specific concept that appears toward the end of the sources, the idea of Awaken.
Awaken, yeah.
Awaken is described in the texts as an empathetic AI mentor. And understanding Awaken perfectly illustrates the fundamental difference in how we can choose to interact with technology.
Right, let's explore Awaken because it shows the two paths we can take. Most people currently use AI as an answer machine.
Yes.
If I use AI as an answer machine, my only goal is to save time. I have a problem, I want a solution, I want it in 2 seconds. I outsource the cognitive work entirely. But Awaken is designed and framed as a sparring partner. What is the architectural difference there?
It's the difference between a calculator and a coach.
Okay.
If you use AI as a sparring partner, the primary goal isn't just to get the answer. The goal is to have the AI mirror your thoughts, expose your blind spots, and expand your perspectives.
So it pushes back.
A sparring partner doesn't just agree with your prompt. If you go to an AI functioning like Awaken and say, give me a strategy to cut 15% of costs, a sparring partner AI might respond, I can do that, but looking at your previous values, this will severely impact team morale. Why are you prioritizing cost over culture in this specific quarter?
It introduces the friction we talked about earlier.
Yes, an answer machine creates dependency. You forget how to do the math because the calculator always does it.
Right.
But a sparring partner creates maturity. It forces you to defend your premise. And that leads to the ultimate conclusion and the real challenge of this 30-day concept.
The ultimate conclusion.
It is, fundamentally, a maturity test for leaders and for entire organizations. It forces executives to ask a very uncomfortable, systemic question.
What's the question?
Are we actively fostering critical thinking in our daily operations? Or are we implicitly promoting and rewarding cognitive comfort in our organizations?
Man, that hits hard.
It does.
Because if your company culture, your incentive structure, just rewards whoever produces the fastest presentation, whoever generates the most content, regardless of the depth of thought or the verified judgment behind it, you are systematically destroying your organization's digital sovereignty. You are building a company filled with incredibly efficient, highly trained, prompt engineers who have absolutely no idea how to fly the plane when the radar breaks or when the destination changes.
Exactly. You are building a fragile organization that will collapse the moment the AI's foundational data is wrong.
So the 30-day challenge.
The 30-day thought engineering challenge is essentially a prophylactic against that exact scenario.
Yeah.
It is a daily workout to rebuild the mental muscles, the critical judgment, and the ethical responsibility that the convenience of AI threatens to atrophy.
Okay, this has been an incredible journey today.
It has.
Let's take a moment to unpack and synthesize everything we've covered because we've traversed a lot of intellectual ground here.
We covered a lot, yeah.
We started by navigating the fundamental shift from prompt engineering, which is merely optimizing the machine's execution, to thought engineering, which is the rigorous discipline of optimizing the human mind that initiates the command. We explored the ACR methodology, Awaken, Clarify, Realign, and we established why you absolutely cannot skip the Awaken phase, lest you just use AI to amplify your own panicked assumptions.
And we also dug deep into the internal cognitive application of the word principle appreciation, openness, reliability, and transparency.
Yes.
We framed it not as external corporate jargon, but as a rigid framework for treating our own thoughts with the discipline and skepticism they actually require.
And then we walked step by step through the practical architecture of the 30-day thought engineering challenge.
Like impulses.
Exactly. We saw how it uses the very distraction of social media feeds to deliver a daily ambush of reflection. We moved from the foundational days of observing our invisible assumptions and carving out silent space to navigating complex data and exercising true judgment.
All the way to the final days of reclaiming our digital sovereignty and taking ultimate responsibility for our real-world decisions.
The through line across all these frameworks and days is incredibly clear. In an age of infinite, instant, commoditized answers, the quality of your judgment is the only true differentiator you have left.
The only one.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? As someone who loves acquiring knowledge, who loves being at the cutting edge, it is incredibly tempting to use every shiny new tool available to consume more, faster.
To generate more, faster.
But the ultimate competitive advantage isn't how fast you can generate a block of text, summarize a 100-page PDF, or execute a complex query.
No, it's not.
The ultimate advantage is the depth, the clarity, the resilience, and the responsibility of your own mind before your fingers even touch the keyboard. Your cognitive firewall is your greatest asset.
Because the machine will always be faster, it will always be more efficient. But the machine does not and cannot bear the consequences of the reality it helps create.
You do.
You do. So we want to leave you with one final lingering thought today, a practical application for tomorrow.
Micropause. Exactly. Tomorrow morning when you sit down at your computer and you open up your AI tool of choice, and you are about to type your very next prompt into that empty text box, force yourself to pause for just 1 second. Don't hit enter. Look at the point on the screen and ask yourself, are you just trying to process information faster so you can get to the next task, or are you actually evolving the way you think?
That's the real
The
question.
machine is ready. Are you?